Who are 9 sleeper running backs you should be looking out for in 2023 fantasy football? Here's an early look as we begin another edition of Locked On Fantasy Football.
Are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NFL fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Fantasy Football Podcast. As usual, I'm your host, Vinnie Iyer. When I'm not doing this, I'm writing about NFL and fantasy football for sportingnews.com. I have a new big board out there for the 2023 NFL Draft. We'll have a 7-round mock draft as well that you can check out this week. So we'll have more draft talk coming, but we have a special series that we started here looking at the sleepers to watch early in 2023 before the draft. So what we know now based on free agency and potential roles of players in the league right now, and some that are coming in. We're going to look at 9 running back sleepers. These are guys that are currently ranked outside the top 24 in half-point PPR. So we're going to look at those players, and there's a lot of unknown quantities here because we know the draft can change some backfields in a hurry, but we're going to do it based on what we know now. And also projecting what these teams could be doing in the draft if they're happy with the back that they have now and if they want to move forward with them. So a lot of stuff to break down there for you. So we'll get those 9 sleepers here in a moment. Thanks again for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first listen today. Subscribe or follow for free wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Okay, let's first look at the scores from last year. In the RB1 realm, in half-point PPR, these are the top 12. Austin Eckler, Christian McCaffrey, Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, Saquon Barkley, Tony Pollard. We also had Jamal Williams, the scoring machine there for the Lions. Aaron Jones, his former teammate. In Green Bay, you had Dalvin Cook, Ramondre Stevenson, Joe Mixon. The RB2s, the second 12 here, Miles Sanders, Najee Harris, Leonard Fournette, Kenneth Walker as a rookie, Travis Etienne in his second year, Alvin Kamara, Ezekiel Elliott, James Conner, Jerick McKinnon, interesting there, DeAndre Swift and David Montgomery, who are teammates now, and Devin Singletary rounded out the top 24. This is in the half-point PPR. So this is looking at the complete scoring, not the average points per game here for these running backs. So it also factors in their durability and availability to look at who scored. So might surprise you, some of those names at the bottom there. Swift missed a lot of time, but he was still there at the end. Montgomery just wasn't explosive, but he made it. And Singletary, the Bills have moved on with Damian Harris this year, so we'll see how that plays out. But a big name missing from the slicks, of course, is Jonathan Taylor. He's going to go right in there. Leonard Fournette is looking for a job, so that's a guy that you would just slide out of there, and Jonathan Taylor would probably finish right in the top 5. Breece Hall also has top 5 potential. He's just outside this group, ranked in the top 24 now. If he comes back healthy, everything's great. And Kenneth Walker, he's ranked as a clear RB1 here. He has a job, Rashad Penny, now in Philadelphia. So those are things we know. Those are the guys that we work in. We subtract Fournette from that mix for sure. I think Swift and Montgomery, one of those guys is going to be gone, and maybe both, depending on what the Lions do in the draft. So we're not looking there. And I also think there'll be a touchdown regression for Jamal Williams. He is now with Alvin Kamara. So you had Williams and Kamara there in this top 24. So one of them will slide out, and that opens up Walker to really shoot up here in the rankings. All right. The number 1 sleeper I'm looking at is J.K. Dobbins. We'll see what the Ravens do. I expect them to add a running back in the draft. They only have J.K. Dobbins coming off his knee injuries. You have Gus Edwards. You also have Justice Hill, who plays very well in special teams. That's why he's still on this roster for the Ravens. So those are the only 3 running backs there. So I think they might add some depth given the durability issues that Dobbins and Edwards have had. Now, why do I feel like Dobbins is going to stay healthy? It's just a feeling here that they're going to lean on him more. This running game can be special. Dobbins gives some explosive qualities here. I'm pretty confident you're either going to get Lamar Jackson or Tyler Huntley starting at quarterback. So that means the running game is going to be facilitated. I think they can block a little bit better up front. Now that the center Tyler Linderbaum is kind of settled in there, they could upgrade there as well. They lost Ben Powers in free agency. So I do like the Ravens' offensive line and the bread and butter of this team, especially with Todd Monken taking over as offense coordinator from Greg Roman, that you'll see more traditional sets, more commitment to a Dobbins here for his explosiveness. And that's a guy I like to finish well above expectations here. I think we're all going to be down on him based on the injuries, but Gus Edwards, keep in mind, also missed time. So the guy behind him is coming off injury here as well. And it's a little bit of later injury. Dobbins at least flashed a little bit when we saw last year where Edwards just wasn't available. So I'm feeling good about Dobbins right now. We'll see what the Ravens do. I don't think they're going to invest a high pick in a running back, so that will help. Where it's just a depth guy if they want to use Hill more in special teams. So that all points to Dobbins having a little bit better effect here should he return healthy. So it's a little bit of a gamble, but these are sleepers that we're looking at on the outside. Now, Dameon Pierce now has company in Houston in the form of Devin Singletary. So he's there, but Singletary, we know, is a bit of a plotter. He doesn't offer much in the passing game. He hasn't been a special back at all for the Bills. I think he's just a depth back here because Rex Burkhead was in the mix there for Houston. Dameon Pierce had a great year. I don't think they're going to push away from this asset. He can really run well in their system. D'Amico Ryans is going to see that he's one of their best talents that they have, and he's going to get him going offensively there. And also, D'Amico Ryans is a defensive-minded head coach, so he'll want that running game to complement what they do on the other side as a way to both protect that defense, keep it off the field, and just be an effective complement. So when you look at Dameon Pierce, he was pretty special last year. Slowed down at the end of last year. It took a while for that to happen, but he's a special back. He fits well in this offense. They really liked what they saw last year, or they wouldn't have invested very lowly on Singletary here. So I do like Dameon Pierce quite a bit. I mean, last year, we know he's a super steal, that people were drafting him as an RB2 at the end because he just had his value inflated. He was too much of a sleeper steal on alert here that everyone was onto it quickly and jumped on him. But here, I think he's being undervalued in relation to some of the things that are going on here. I think he can finish in the top 12 easily this year because the feature role, again, Singletary also has his issue staying healthy. So, and Pierce proved he can handle 20 touches per game last year. The next guy is a sleeper because we're not sure about his injury status, but I think the Broncos gave us a hint. They signed Samaje Perine. I think you'll see a little bit of committee approach, but Javonte Williams can be special. You have a good coaching staff there, Sean Payton and Joe Lombardi. So you might get a little bit of that Austin Eckler receiving treatment. And I think the way that they picked up Perine, he's a guy that you plug and play for Williams. So that's an important thing to know when you're looking at free agent moves. Is it someone who can do the same things as the guy that's leading? Or is it someone who's going to complement what that guy can do? Well, Javonte Williams can pretty much do everything. But the fact that Samaje Perine kind of is a swing straight up backup that we saw with Joe Mixon last year and a few years that he's been pretty good as a number two, that says the Broncos have some optimism on Javonte Williams' health here. So it was delayed. We had to deal with Melvin Gordon and Mike Boone and some of these other guys that they've been rotating through the Broncos backfield. But I think if Javonte is on track, which it seems like it is, I think he's going to be a feature guy with Perine just spelling him in a few key situations across down. So those are three guys, again, finished well out of this mix, and they're down ranked beyond that in half-point PPR. J.K. Dobbins, Dameon Pierce, Javonte Williams, more of the top-end guys that we're looking at. But really, the real sleepers will come in our next segment, so we'll break those down for you. But we're going by the rankings. These are guys, again, that are a little bit outside the RB1, RB2 realm that can push into the top 20 with their production. So we'll break down 6 more such sleepers on today's show, so including 2 rookies from last year that are really in great situations in year 2. This episode of Locked On Fantasy Football is proudly brought to you by Ultimate Football GM. You've heard me talk about this mobile game app, and if you've ever thought you'd make a good GM, you've got to give this a try. It's not as easy as you might think to create a dynasty. When you play Ultimate Football GM, you can get to control and manage every strategic aspect of your team. as you play through seasons to lead your team to glory, trying to build a historic dynasty. It's a pretty fun game, I have to say. Like, I love doing the salary cap management and figuring out who I can afford on my roster. It's going to let you do all that. So you're playing GM for all these teams. You can make the tough decisions on the veterans and then move on with the rookies, all that good stuff. So you can just put yourself in their shoes. And it's difficult. You got to operate with the salary cap. You got to make smart moves. And then you get to see the process that leads to your results. It's an amazing game, and you'll get into it really quickly. I promise you that. It's just good to see what good decisions you make and also to check out what bad decisions you might make. You learn a lot from them and you get better at the game. So once you download, you don't need Wi-Fi to play. You can play in app mode. And really, download this app and you will not be disappointed. Ultimate Football GM is going to give you hours of entertainment and fun. With Ultimate Football GM, you're responsible for controlling the destiny of your franchise by hiring the right coaches and coordinators, managing all the finances, including negotiating player salaries and terms. Great to know as we're going through free agency now. You can navigate your franchise through free agency. Anything you need to know through the draft, player personnel issues, and all the ups and downs of a season and an off season. You get all this in a challenging and realistic game world. Ultimate Football GM is completely free and playable offline. You play on the go as you want and when you want to. Locked On Fantasy Football listeners, listen up. You get a 100% free boost to your franchise when using the promo code Locked On. That's Locked On all caps in the game store. That's Locked On all caps. So make sure to check it out today. To download the game, just visit ultimate-gm.com or look it up in the App Store. So it's ultimate-gm.com. Ultimate Football GM. Start your dynasty today. All right, it is time to continue the show here on Locked On Fantasy Football. Thanks again for making us your first listen. Subscribe, follow wherever you get your podcast. Part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, let's get into three really exciting sleepers here. Number one is Bijon Robinson. Yeah, I think he's going to be special wherever he goes, and he has a big-time chance to finish in the top 12 for sure. I mean, he's that talented back. We'll see where he ends up. Rooting for the Eagles right now. That's not a bad spot. Buccaneers are not bad. Any place where they need a lead back here. There's also talk about him landing in Detroit. I think that could definitely materialize here. As Montgomery, again, look at the signs here. Montgomery is a good all-around backup, but he's not a lead guy anymore. He just hasn't had that explosive nature. They're tired of DeAndre Swift. So watch out for Bijon Robinson there in Detroit, and he would be fantastic. He would almost feel that you just go RB1 with him no matter what, because look, that offensive line Detroit is amazing. You saw what Williams did last year. So think about this. You had Williams and Swift both finished in the top 24. Think about Robinson getting the majority of those touches. If the Lions draft him, that's what's going to happen. He's worthy workhorse here. So look at Bijon Robinson. He's got to be on the radar for everybody. I don't care where he goes. He's too talented not to get on the field quickly. And I'm going to say modestly that I think we're being a little conservative with this ranking right now, because anywhere he goes, healthy, fresh legs can produce right away. Now, if you look at the numbers last year, there weren't rookies' presence there, but I think look at Bijon Robinson. He can change things. He's a game changer there. He's a little bit more pop than Najee Harris coming into this league. Isiah Pacheco is another great sleeper here because the Chiefs have been slow on bringing back Jerick McKinnon. We'll see if he's there. McKinnon, keep in mind, finished as the RB21 at half-point PPR. But Pacheco showed a little bit of receiving pop down the stretch. He's definitely the power back that's going to get the key touch of the red zone. He already had more than 900 yards rushing last year in a part-time role. So this is really good. I think Andy Reid really likes him in this offense, and it's going to be the lead to take pressure off Patrick Mahomes. They should build with leads here. Pacheco's role is going to be expanded. They love him. The late round steal here, and he's going to get all the touches. When you give him number 10 for Tyreek Hill, the Chiefs definitely want to deploy him more. So something we're looking at, but Pacheco really, I like his skill set. He's explosive. He can finish drives. They haven't really been too committed to Clyde Edwards-Helaire here. We'll see what they do with him if they draft a replacement kind of pass catching type back in the draft to kind of replace McKinnon there, but Pacheco is still lead. He's in good position to get a lot of rushing touchdowns here on a highly explosive offense and also be a better check down outlet here for Patrick Mahomes. Next guy is Rachaad White and the Buccaneers. I mean, tough there. They had to move Leonard Fournette. They had to cut some salaries there. Rachaad White we'll see what happens. But Dave Canales is your new offense coordinator. He wants to employ run-heavy techniques here. That's good because he was behind Kenneth Walker having that breakout year, and Kenneth Walker being set up here for year 2. So Rachaad White, you got a decent back. We'll see what they do in the draft. But Fournette was released, so he's not in the mix. You don't have too much behind White at this point. Keyshawn Vaughn is also there, but Rachaad White, again, special qualities. He can stay on the field for 3 downs. That's what I like. That he has a good pass catching upside here as well. I think the Buccaneers know how valuable he can be. New offense tailors more to the running game. New quarterback situation also tailors to more checkdowns and quicker passes to Rachaad White here to try to get him going in the open field. But that is definitely a intriguing guy to look at for sure without Tom Brady in that mix for the Bucs offense. You look at what they can do elsewhere. It's throwing the ball downfield. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are there. They've kind of lost a tight end after releasing Cameron Brate. So this could be a down and dirty, get it in the trenches, run it team more than we think with Canales and also White with the pass catching. So he comes in as the number 6 sleeper as we look at the middle tier guys there that can really break out here this season. We've got 3 more running backs to talk about, including 1 more rookie to watch here on Locked On Fantasy Football for a Monday. We're breaking down the top 9 running back sleepers for you. There's a lot of good stuff to talk about with Bijon Robinson and that other rookie I was talking about, Jamir Gibbs. And they're doing it on Locked On NFL Draft as well. Damian Parson, Keith Sanchez, bringing the latest insight you need to know on prospects and what teams are thinking for when the clock starts to tick on April 27th. Check it out, Locked On NFL Draft here on the Locked On Network. All right, let's close the show looking at 3 more backs there. Jamir Gibbs is the other rookie, as we mentioned. Bijon Robinson, Gibbs, pretty special out of Alabama. We know Alabama backs have a good pedigree in the NFL of late, delivering what they need to do. Now, Gibbs is just a good all-around back. I think he's actually a better receiver than Robinson. I think Robinson's a better pure runner and instinctual there, but Gibbs is also potential being a 3-down back. And look, we don't take that lightly, so I don't know if you're just going to blindly take Robinson, Gibbs, and we'll see if they can have a RB2 upside, but really, in most situations, they would. They're just that talented. They want to get fresh legs on the field. Those coaches save money at running back here. So, again, it lines up well if they've got a back that's similar to Gibbs that can catch passes. I'm looking at James Cook being an option, but right now, Gibbs, wherever he goes, I'm going to put him on my radar draft. All right. Speaking of James Cook, right now, as it stands with the Bills, Damian Harris has essentially replaced Devin Singletary as the lead power back here, but Damian Harris can't stay healthy. You've got James Cook. They could be a receiving forward type of guy here. The slot is in transition without Cole Beasley and Isaiah McKenzie. So there's a lot of things moving on here for the Bills, and you look at James Cook. He's explosive. He can run and break free here. So they could be receiving back forward here and try to complement him with a power back in the draft that they get, maybe Roschon Johnson out of Texas. It's something there. You much prefer Roschon Johnson for Cook's value than Bijon Robinson because if the Bills able to land Robinson, I think that pretty much squashes Cook's value altogether, even as a change of pace receiving option. But at this stage, I think I really like James Cook. I mean, he has a good pedigree. He had some numbers last year that flashed pretty well. So James Cook is the choice there at running back as the 8th sleeper. Number 9 is Kenneth Gainwell. We'll see what happens with Rashad Penny if the Eagles go after Robinson or another back in the draft, even Gibbs. Of course, Gibbs go to the Eagles would shoot him into that, catapult him into where we're looking at the scoring. But Miles Sanders now with Carolina. Rashad Penny is now in Philadelphia. We know Penny can't stay healthy. So the next back that you look at that had a major impact is Kenneth Gainwell. He ran well at times last year. I think the problem is I don't know if they want to feel comfortable expanding his role too much here, but if it's by necessity and they don't have a lot of other options here and they don't tap into one of those first-round potential talents in the draft or another option that they could put in number 1, they're going to have to look at Gainwell more and more there in Philadelphia because he's playing in passing situations anyway. This is a good, effective running team with Jalen Hurts, whoever you plug in, and that offensive line is fantastic. So Kenneth Gainwell, we'll see if he breaks free from kind of his change of pace receiving role a few times a game, can score the occasional touchdown to have that more as a regular part of his repertoire here in 2023. It really just depends what the Eagles are looking at in the draft, but I would expect they're looking to running back just for depth, but there'll definitely be a battle for the key touches here. On the Chiefs offense in 2023, as well as the Bucs and looking at the Bills and the Eagles, all these teams just need some clarity on their backfields, and we should get some more of it during the 2023 draft. So there you have it. A look at 9 sleeper running backs that can finish in the top 20. Guys you don't want to sleep on, sneaky guys to consider in your draft for this moment. And we'll soon have a team associated with Robinson Gibbs. Just wait till April 27th or 28th, and we'll know about what we can do with those players in particular, and if their stock rises or falls out of this. But for now, these 2 rookies, Robinson Gibbs, part of the 9 early sleepers at running back for 2023. Thanks for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first listen every day. Next episode, we'll look at the wide receivers. We'll look at 9 sleepers there that we can examine. They're across the board that are undervalued based on the consensus half-point PPR rankings. Now make your second listen Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes. From free agency to draft, salary cap management, and more, join NFL experts Kyle Krabs and Joe Marino as they take you through what it's like to build a successful NFL franchise every Monday through Friday. Find Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. For Locked On Fantasy Football, this has been Vinnie Iyer with our look at sleeper running backs. Check us out tomorrow as we break down the sleeper wide receivers.